You know, I've been thinking about this. What is the deal? Well, we've got to address these problems, and how we address them is shaped by our worldview. And our worldview is shaped by a very interesting grab bag of influences. We've all got a different approach to these problems because we all have a worldview shaped by our life experience. My mom's worldview is shaped by her husband. My sister's worldview is shaped by support our troops. My neighbor's worldview is shaped by a potent cocktail of fear and patriotism. My uncle's worldview, what's good for his investments. All of our worldview, to a great extent, is shaped by commercial television and this commercial sort of push in our society. I'm very thankful that my world is shaped to a large extent by my travels. I've been fortunate enough to travel, and as a travel writer, I like to bring that home and give other people the chance to learn from my travels vicariously through my writing and speaking and so on. The value of travel is nothing new. 1,500 years ago, Muhammad said, don't tell me how educated you are, tell me how much you've traveled. Thomas Jefferson traveled, and he wrote that travel makes a person wiser, if less happy. That's a concept. Mark Twain traveled. I love how Mark Twain traveled, and he came home and he wrote that travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness. I've traveled a lot, and boy, I've had so much fun traveling. And I was thinking about a way to kind of sum up the value of travel to me. And let me just take you to close to a Turkish village. One of these beautiful little villages on the far east of Turkey. And a little montage of experiences. First, I get to go to a wedding. And there's the whole community gathered, and the old people there look at the young bride and groom, and they say this local blessing, may you grow old together on one pillow. It's a beautiful concept. I leave the wedding and I'm walking down the street and I'm just put off by my Turkish friends that have these ugly unfinished buildings with all this rusty rebar. And I think, why can't you people get your act together and just finish these buildings? And then I learned that in Turkey there's an ethic among parents that you leave your children with a home, a physical home. And every parent, even poor parents, try to do this throughout their lives. And Turks know you don't put money in the bank because it disappears through inflation. You invest it in a little bit of a building. Every time you get $100, you put it into that building, and you leave that rebar there for the next $100 when you can make another wall, put on a window and on a door, and more rebar. Now when I look at that rusty rebar, I just remember what the Turks say, rebar holds the family together. Whoa, talk about a little enlightenment about that. Go down the street further, a little boy is playing an eagle bone flute, just like in biblical times, carved out of an eagle bone. He's playing his flute. And then I listen and I hear another eagle bone flute, out of sight, over the hill. And his dad is up there with the sheep. As they have for centuries, the dad and the boy, knowing they're each there, the mom's over here, the man's taking care of the sheep, and so on. It's a gorgeous community. Later on, I go down to a woodcarver's workshop with my tour, and we gather around his shop. He's never seen an American, and now he's got 15 of us gathered around his table. And he's famous in that corner of Turkey because he's a great woodcarver, and everybody wants a prayer niche in their mosque carved by this man. And he's working away and showing off, and he's puffed up, he's very proud, and suddenly he stops, and he holds the chisel high into the sky, and he declares, a man and his chisel, the greatest factory on earth. Wow. He doesn't need me to tell him what fulfillment's all about. Later on, I asked him, can I buy a piece of your art? And he says, for a man my age to know that my work will go back to the United States and be appreciated, that's payment enough. Please, take this home with you and remember me. Ooh, that's nice. Later on, we go to the mayor's house with our group. And anytime there's a large gathering in Turkey, you bet there's dancing and music going on. They turn on the music, everybody's dancing, shake your shoulders, snap your fingers. And then the mayor comes over to me, the tour guide, and he wants to show off, and he says, come over here. And he says, I have in the most sacred place in my home, my Quran bag. This is where I keep my Quran. And in my Quran bag, I also have a copy of the Torah and a copy of the Bible. Because by my estimate, we're all people of the book, children of one great God. A beautiful concept, a beautiful notion there on the eastern fringe of Turkey. Later on, we are wanting to be with the whirling dervish as he meditates and whirls. And you know, all the tourists know about this from the cruise shows and so on. But there was a dervish there, a monk, a follower of Mevlana, who's sort of a prophet of love, kind of a St. Francis, I suppose, of the Muslim faith. And he says, you can watch me get into my meditative trance and my prayer, but I want you to understand what I'm doing before you watch me. So we climb up onto his roof. The sun is setting. And he says, for us, when we pray, we put one foot into our community, anchored in our home. The other foot goes around like this, acknowledging the wonderful variety of God's creation, all corners of this great world. I raise one hand up to acknowledge the love of our God, our Creator. And the other hand goes down like a teapot, and it showers the love of our Creator onto all of His beautiful and His beautiful creation. And he whirls like this, getting into a meditative trance. And I look at him going around, and I look at his robe billowing out, and his head tilting over. And I think, there's a man, acknowledging the greatness of God. A man that is so different from me, but actually so much the same. And I think if I can just take that home, that understanding of the fundamental oneness and at the same time the beautiful diversity on this planet, that is my most treasured souvenir. And when we take home with us that understanding, and then when we use that understanding here as citizens in this greatest democracy on this planet, that makes travel a political act. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, thanks. Thanks. All right, thank you.